A bullet in the heart of suburbia. The gunshot echoed through the quiet strip mall, shattering the November chill. My 4-year-old daughter, Emily, crumpled in her wheelchair, blood seeping from her tiny legs. Margaret Hensley, the HOA president who'd tormented us for months, stood there, her pistol still smoking. I, a federal judge, stood frozen, my world collapsing. This wasn't just a crime, it was the culmination of a vendetta that began with a simple wooden ramp. 3 months earlier, trouble knocked on my door in the form of Margaret Hensley. She stood on my porch in our upscale Virginia neighborhood, clipboard in hand, her smile as stiff as her pressed blazer. "Judge Daniel Harper," she said, peering through the screen door. "I'm Margaret, your new HOA president. We need to discuss violations." Her eyes flicked to the ramp leading to my front door, built for Emily, who was born with spina bifida. That ramp wasn't approved. It's an eyesore and against regulations. I clenched my jaw. It's for my daughter. She needs it to get in and out of the house. Emily wheeled up behind me, her brown curls bouncing. "Daddy, who's that lady?" she asked, her voice bright despite Margaret's cold stare. "Just someone from the neighborhood, sweetheart," I said, lifting her onto my lap. "She's leaving." Margaret's smile tightened. "Rules are rules, Judge. This neighborhood has standards." She turned on her heel, her stilettos clicking down the sidewalk. I should have known, then she wasn't just picky, she was dangerous. Over the next few weeks, Margaret turned our lives into a nightmare. She sent letters about the ramp, complained my lawn was half an inch too long, and griped that our trash cans were out 10 minutes early. She even tried to tow my car from the community center's handicapped spot, claiming Emily's permit was fake. My neighbor, Carl, shook his head one evening as I helped Emily with her picture book. "She's unhinged, Dan. She sent me a fine because my tulips were too red. Her husband's leaving her, you know. She's taking it out on everyone." I nodded, watching Emily trace a butterfly in her book. She loved drawing, singing, and her weekly reading tutoring. Her disability never dimmed her spirit, but Margaret saw it as a flaw in her perfect suburb. "She's targeting us because of Emily," I said. Carl agreed. "She thinks disabled kids don't belong here." Margaret's harassment escalated. She followed me, snapping photos of my house and car. She filed city complaints about my mailbox and fence. Worst of all, she called Child Protective Services, alleging I neglected Emily because I let her play outside in her wheelchair. "This is insane," I told my lawyer friend, Tom, over coffee. "She's trying to ruin us over a ramp." "Document everything," Tom advised. "If she escalates, get a restraining order." But I hesitated. Emily kept asking why the mean lady didn't like her. I wanted to shield her, not drag her into a legal battle. I thought Margaret would tire herself out. I was wrong. One October evening, I caught Margaret in my driveway, photographing the ramp. "Get off my property," I snapped. She sneered, stepping closer. "You think you're untouchable because you're a judge, but you're just a deadbeat dad with a defective kid." My blood boiled, but I was a judge. I had to stay calm. "I'm calling the police," I said, pulling out my phone. She laughed. "Go ahead. This is my neighborhood, and I'm cleaning it up." I filed a police report, but the officer said her actions weren't specific enough for charges. "We'll talk to her," he promised. It only made her bolder. The next day, she was back, measuring the ramp with a tape measure. "This violates 6 building codes," she muttered. "It's legal, built with permits," I shot back. "You're wasting your time." That weekend, Margaret called a neighborhood meeting at the community center, supposedly about standards. My ex-wife, Laura, who visited Emily every weekend, was uneasy. "She's unstable, Dan. What if she attacks Emily in front of everyone?" I looked at Emily, coloring at the kitchen table, humming a Disney tune. "We're not hiding," I said. "She doesn't get to dictate our lives." At the meeting, Margaret stood before 30 neighbors with a PowerPoint. Her first slide showed our house, the ramp circled in red. "This unauthorized structure lowers property values," she declared. I stood. "That ramp is for my disabled daughter. It's protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act." Margaret's voice dripped with false sympathy. "No one's denying her rights, but there are special schools, special housing for people like her." The room went silent. My heart pounded. "My daughter has every right to live here," I said, my voice steady. "As a judge, I uphold those laws." Margaret's mask slipped, revealing raw hatred. Then she clicked on a photo of Emily playing in our backyard, taken without permission. This child is a safety risk, she said. What if she hurts someone? We have a liability issue. I charged toward her. Delete that photo now. Carl stood up. Margaret, you've gone too far. That girl's an angel. Margaret backed away, clutching her laptop. This is a community issue. I couldn't stay. I stormed out, knowing that assaulting her would cost me my career and hurt Emily more. The only thing broken here is your humanity, I said at the door. That night, Laura and I decided to pursue a restraining order. But I was swamped with court cases, and part of me still hoped Margaret would back off. I underestimated her obsession. 3 weeks later, on a cold November afternoon, I was late picking Emily up from her reading tutoring at a strip mall 10 minutes from home. She loved her tutor, Mrs. Ellis, who gave her stickers for every book she read. As I pulled into the parking lot, I saw Margaret's SUV. My stomach dropped. What was she doing here? I parked in the handicapped spot and headed for the door, but Margaret stepped out from behind her car. You're late, she sneered. Your kid was alone for 15 minutes. I froze. How do you know that? Her face flushed. I saw her through the window. She looked upset. I turned on her. You're stalking my daughter. That's illegal. She followed me, ranting. Stay away from her. I warned, but she grabbed my arm. You think everyone should accommodate your crippled kid. I'm sick of that ramp. Sick of you taking handicapped spots. Sick of pretending she's normal. I jerked free. Don't you ever talk about her like that. Inside, Emily beamed, holding a book. Daddy, I learned magnificent today. It means good. I hugged her, trying to ignore Margaret pacing outside. As I loaded Emily into the car, Margaret approached again. This isn't over, she hissed. I know where you live, where she goes to school. I won't let her ruin my neighborhood. I should have called the police. Instead, I drove home, Emily humming in her car seat. I didn't know Margaret was tailing us, a gun in her purse. Minutes later, in the tutoring center's parking lot, it happened. Margaret stormed up as I buckled Emily in. You can't ignore me, she screamed, pulling the gun. Before I could react, she fired. Emily screamed, blood pooling under her legs. I lunged at Margaret, wrestling the gun away as bystanders called 911. She fought like a cornered animal, but I pinned her until police arrived. Emily was rushed to the hospital. Surgeons worked for hours to save her legs. She survived, but the trauma would linger. Margaret was charged with attempted murder and stalking. At her trial, I testified, my voice breaking as I described Emily's pain. The jury convicted her, and she was sentenced to 20 years. The HOA board dissolved her presidency, and the neighborhood rallied around us, ashamed they'd let her reign unchecked. Months later, Emily returned to tutoring, her smile brighter than ever. I'm magnificent, Daddy, she said, showing me a new book. The ramp still stood, a symbol of her resilience. I'd failed to protect her from Margaret's hatred, but I vowed to fight for justice hers and others. This story isn't just ours. It's about prejudice, power, and the cost of silence. What do you think? Should I have acted sooner? Was Margaret a monster, or a product of a broken system? Share your thoughts below, especially on violence and injustice in our communities. Your voice matters.